David Hawkins. Thank you again for coming to the ISC all the way here. We see some people behind the scenes that we cannot show for now because it's but you have a good team with you, obviously supporting and for business. And look, we're very happy to have you, obviously, and thanks for coming. So I wanted to discuss a little bit again for the audience, as I mentioned before, that who wasn't able to come in here today to explore your business and to understand what's happening with your company, Smokey Hawk Solitons. Maybe you can give kind of 10,000 feet overview, and maybe then I can kind of dig into that as well.
Sure. So the company right now is founded by my brother and I and a couple of other founders. And what we're really focused on solving is the problem of not only deep space transport, but propellantless propulsion in outer space. So, we looked at the problem. My background is as aviation and electrical engineering. His background is engineering and nuclear physics. And we looked at the problem and tried to figure out, what are other options? Like, what's something totally different that nobody's ever tried before? And so we came up with this idea. We call it a soliton generator. And what it does is it's a rotational system, sort of like a jet engine or a wheel on a car, and it uses rotation to produce propulsion in space. So you don't need fuel, you don't need propellant, anything like that.
Right. Okay. So, and you talked about kind of more kind of further travel to Mars, and we talked about the Mars and going beyond that and kind of shortening the timelines as we see it, right? And right now, as we speak, we're still waiting for the SLS launch, right? So we see those timelines are really long. I mean, just to take off and obviously then to travel towards Mars. So can you talk about how, again, your system will play part in that and shortening those timelines?
Sure. So in comparison with the rocketry, so rocketry generally has about 2 to 3 year windows to transit between the planets. So for example, if the SLS mission doesn't get off in the next couple of months, then they're going to have to wait probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Just because they're fuel limited. So with the rocket, you take off from orbit, you achieve escape velocity, point towards Mars on a particular path, and then you shut your engine off because you want to save fuel as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically, cruising through space. You've got some fuel that you can use for navigation, but then when you get there, you obviously turn around and come back.
Right.
But you can't continually accelerate. So what our system provides is a system that's continuous propulsion. So I don't have to turn it off. As long as I've got electrical power, which can be solar panels, it can be electric battery, things like that, we can run it constantly. And that allows you to accelerate to very, very fast. So
right.
You could go much faster halfway there, and then turn the acceleration off and start decelerating.
Mm-hmm.
But you're achieving several 100,000 miles an hour.
Wow. Okay. And when we speak about that solution for the people that are listening, we're talking about SLS and all these big projects. So just for people to understand, this is something that's affordable, let's say for kind of smaller new space company that just have a kind of 3U CubeSat, or this is going to be specifically for kind of big government or private company projects?
No, actually, one of the things we've had the most interest here at the conference is the small sat market.
Right.
Because we don't need propellant fuel, we don't need a fuel tank, we just need a power source and then something to rotate the system. So we're actually talking about something that could fit in a 3U or a 6U satellite, something on that order. And one of the applications that we've come up with here in some of the discussions was like orbit correction, so relevant to the space junk problem, relevant to the inaccurate positioning. When the launch vehicles, one of the issues that they have is the launch companies, it's hard to be profitable as a launch company without going with these large rocket systems. Well, if you have a specific satellite orbit that you need to have, these large rocket systems are not often capable of being very precise in what exact orbit you get. But our system would solve that potentially because you could use it to change your orbit or to adjust it if you needed to. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of applications. I mean, obviously Mars is kind of a big
right.
milestone, but we would also be, fully ready to support small sats and those kind of applications.
Perfect. And this is so. Obviously, we just finished the panel just before we came in regarding the space sustainability, the space junk situation, right? So, do you get approached a lot by the companies who are just looking for kind of course correct the orbit solutions now? And how do you think that kind of ties in with your company personally as a company? How do you look at the space sustainability?
Yeah, so we've had several discussions here about what it would take to correct orbits in terms of size of satellite, and it's a few things. It's the power requirements for what the satellite mission is. It's the how big it is, what orbit it's in, and then how quickly it needs to be moved back to where it's going. And the other thing for space junk is for these systems that are going to be launched to clean up the space environment, they're going to need propulsion too.
Right.
And so when you launch them and you go collect a satellite or you take it up to graveyard orbit, things like that, well, what happens to that satellite? Is it going to deorbit? Is it going to just become space junk itself? I don't know that that's really been fully talked about.
Right.
And so an enduring propulsion system, something that could do all of those things without being fuel limited, is still a need in the industry for sure.
Just for people to let know, because obviously you can find all the contact details of yours regarding your company. So for somebody who's looking to get in contact with you, I mean, where are you currently in the process regarding company?
So we're a U.S. company.
Yeah.
We're working on the website. We haven't quite finished it yet. It'll be up soon. But yeah, our information is in the presentation, at the last slide of the presentation. Just shoot us an email or we can get in touch that way as well.
Perfect. So just a couple of questions that I wanted to ask is regarding just the companies, and growing the companies. This is kind of off the topic question, but as we speak literally on this podcast, because the Altair Enterprises podcast is all about space business, right? So we kind of like to touch, besides space, which could be very kind of science heavy, touch about the business side also and the operation side and how sometimes tough it is to manage both at the same time, right?
Sure.
So how do you see that? I mean, what would you give as an advice maybe for a kind of fresh new startup that's watching right now in terms of business operation? Any advice or struggles and how to conquer, kind of go through those in a daily operations?
I think the biggest thing we've learned, or at least I personally learned, is sometimes solving the hard problem. There's intermediate problems along the way, and from our perspective, being very technical, a lot of our challenges are heavily math centric, heavily trying to figure it out, the technical side of it. But to the business side of it, then once you've got the technical reasonably figured out, then converting that into something that's sort of understandable this is totally new. Like what we're doing is totally new. No one's ever tried it. In fact, this presentation was the first time it's been presented globally. So, and we've gotten a lot of questions about it, and you've got to be able to explain it to somebody as a business, and not just get stuck on the physics and how it works, but kind of how it could help, the satellite providers or the launch system, people like that.
Perfect. Okay, well, I'm happy to hear, and obviously, I wish a lot of great success for your company. I mean, it's definitely, we need a lot of these innovative companies that are looking towards to kind of lens of sustainability, especially companies like yours that, I see the excitement in their face when they talk about Mars and going there. And obviously, this is a very exciting journey for us as humans, to become interplanetary species one day. And obviously, propulsion plays a big part in terms of shortening timelines, how we're going to get there and whatnot. So I'm very happy that there are innovative companies like yours that are working on these solutions. So thank you once again.
Sure.
You all can find all the details regarding your company. Don't hesitate, contact David, obviously, websites, when they will be, and with the emails, LinkedIn, everything like that will be included.
Sure.
Very happy to have you.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.